extremely well this match day, the 20th of March, Bournemouth versus United today. Look, it is a big match and I'll last for a couple of weeks, so it's a match that we need to ultimately win. Because look, if we win it, look, then we give ourselves the best opportunity. And I think, with the amount of games left, the opportunity to finish third and fourth and really get those Champions League spaces after the abysmal performances of the Geordies and of Spurs. Look, Spurs did themselves okay in the end, but look, it wasn't great, was it? So look, first thing to say is, get into this amazing community, get into this amazing chat. This is the best community on this platform, hands down. I don't care what anybody says. Get in there. Dino is in the house. How are we doing, JB? I'm doing extremely well. Busy. Work is busy. It's a bloody nightmare, which means that streaming is becoming difficult, but we get through it. And the first thing to say, look, get into this amazing community. Be respectful. This channel is based on respect, really. I respect you. Hopefully you guys will respect me. So look, get in there, respect the community, respect me, and ultimately respect yourselves. I know people have tend to get on these shows and just absolutely go crazy. But look, just give yourselves respect. Sky's in the house. Hope Sky's doing extremely well. And the second thing to say, look, I'm not a dictator of this chat. Look, I will read out your views. We do have some good banter on here. We do have some good views. You guys are intelligent. You come up with some amazing stuff. And look, I really do read out your comments. It doesn't cost you anything. So look, let's get into it. Sam says United. Look, it is match day. Look, I'm not going to go into these players today. It's interesting. I'm going to go through the preview of the game. Not really, but life goes on. How are you doing? I'm busy. I'm so busy. Work. Look, I've got a full-time job. For people that do not know, so my streaming is up and down. But look, you people do give me the time of day, and I'm very, very fortunate to have you guys in here. So, match day. Look, it is again exciting. It doesn't matter about what these players do or they do not do. It is a match day. Danny is in the house, absolute ledge. And it is a match day. It's so important to get excited tonight, and we have to do. No Semenyo for them, so we have to win. And look, Bournemouth haven't scored a lot of goals. Dina says a lot of rumours and news been flying around in the past few days. And look, and we can get into that today. I know I didn't do a show yesterday, so we can get into all that now. We can get into the presser. And, we can get into the preview as well. Henderson, absolute legend. It's finally great to be here. Love it, mate. Love it. So, look, where do we start? Look, I think we should probably start with the presser. I'm going to get my rant out of the way to begin with. I'm going to try not to rant. And look, this isn't about the players today. Look, this is about the club. This is about what I think needs to happen and will not happen. And we'll get through the transfer news as well. We're going to get through it all today. So let's talk about it. So look, the presser. Look, we're going to go through what Carrick said. JB rant the legend. I can't do it. So look, the first thing to say about the pressers. Recently, I haven't been doing the pressers. And the reason why I haven't is because they're a load of bollocks. Carrick, I like him. He speaks extremely well. But there is no depth. I think the media likes to give Carrick more depth than he's got. I don't think Carrick is very deep when it comes to the conference. What Carrick is, and they are, and I've been saying this for the longest time. Look, I refuse to do shows, right, that are shit. Right, people might think that these shows are shit, but I will not do shows just to make the shows. There is nothing in the pressers. There is no point in me doing a show where I'm going to talk to you live. Look, I've made some notes, and we can go through them. The takeaways really are, there is nothing to take away. It is the same old stuff. And exactly, we are not clickbait on here. We don't do it. But look, I will go through the conference as such. are you are you 6'7" guy? No, I'm not the 6'7" guy. God, that meme is old. So look, Carrick is talking about, on the injuries of players. Look, he is so vague, and this is really where I want to start. And look, Carrick, look, one of the things I want to say, he is complicit. And when I say complicit, what is he supposed to do? This club lies. This club poses and make their names shiny shit. Exactly. And that's something that we do not do in here. I do not believe in it. It's just nonsense. If there is any structure or depth, the one thing I will say about Anne Amarin is that at least his conferences were interesting. At least the media sort of went for him. The media are so kind. He is the darling, and it's just the way that United, after the presses, they do this little segment on him where he's standing up and it just makes me sick. It just makes me feel physically sick. Simon says, greetings, JB. Simon, your legend. Bournemouth is always tricky, the home or away. Another 3 points up for grabs and a potential Champions League place. I will go into that as well, because Bournemouth haven't scored in the last 2 games. They haven't scored goals. So how the fuck did they score 3 against us? But look, we will go into that as well. Look, these conferences are boring as shit. Highlight reels of pressers, great content. Thank you, my friend. So look, I'm not going to go into what he said because he didn't really say it. I'm going to focus on the injury news. There are no clarity on it. Look, I'm sick and tired of this club lying. Mason Mount, look. Mason Mount, look. This guy, I've been saying this for the longest time. He's apparently Mason Mount is back, right? How is he back? Look, Carrick, and I do need to prefix with this, right? Is that Carrick, what is he supposed to do? He has to toe the company line, right? And when he's talking about these players being back, or he doesn't know these players are on grass, etc., he knows it's a load of bullshit. He knows it is a big load of nonsense crap. So I don't blame him when I say this. But this fucking club, I'm sick and tired of the lies. Mason Mount is apparently back. He was on the bench. Carrick has said he wasn't 100% fit, so he can't start a game. Mason Mount is on the bench to make up the numbers, to basically make out like Mason Mount is back. Mason Mount is not back. Mason Mount is not 100% fit. They brought him back into the squad because they want to make it look like he can play. He's still injured. It's so clear that Mason Mount is still injured. I think Mason Mount is one of the worst signings that we've ever made. Exo Bass says, hello, I'm from Turkey. Hello, my friend. I hope you're doing extremely well. Welcome to the show. I'm tired. I'm tired of a Mason Mount. Look, I like Mason Mount. I said at the start of the season, what is the point of a Mason Mount? I don't even class him as a player. He will come back, and I guarantee you Mason Mount will be injured again. I guarantee you the minutes of Mason Mount. Bro, I'm a football team, Trabzonspor. Maz, 50% chance of returning as well. And exactly that, like Mazraoui, 50%. I mean, it's so vague. He's like, how can you be 50-50, right? You're either ready to play or you're not. How can it be 50%? So which means he's half fit. Like, how can that be a thing? Mason Mount is done. Mason Mount is absolutely done. I do not class him as a player. Look, he is here to stay. He's one of the biggest wastes of cash. He's the biggest waste of time, I think, at this club. And look, it is not a dig at him. It is not his fault. But this club bought this player when they knew that he was injured. They knew that he was out. And yet people still decided to bring him in. I blame a Ten Hag. I blame the people around him who decided to bring in a Mason Mount. He is pointless. He is pointless. I wish that there was insurance on this player. I would cash in on this player now, and I would absolutely push him out. Bro, Cristiano or Messi? It's really, really easy for me. Cristiano is the epitome of hard work. Messi is a gift. And Cristiano, look, I've got to pick him. Should be more focused on the players who are 100% fit and hope they will be fit. Exactly, Dino. So Mason Mount, what do we do with a Mason Mount? Grace says we need a centre-back, a left-back, 3 midfielders, a winger. How are we going to afford this? Need to look at the loan and the free market. It's ironic. We bought a Chelsea melting Mount and now we turn the tables by offloading Garnacho to Chelsea. I do agree with you. Steve's gone. Bruno G coming to Manny, thank God. We can get into that now. What I have done, I'm not going to do it today. I can't do it on here, but I have created a can we afford it meter. So I have created that. So I know some other platforms are talking about Bruno G. So Grace summed it up perfectly there. We need a centre back. We're going to lose a Casemiro. Mason Mount doesn't play. We're going to need 2 centre midfielders. I would argue 3. Ugarte is shit. Casemiro now is definitely, apparently, I'm still saying watch on the Casemiro thing. Mason Mount, Ugarte, we're going to need 3. We're going to need 3. Now, as I said, in a future show, whilst other channels will give you a hotter meter, an unrealistic percentage of all these players, I've created it's a bit rough and ready, but I don't know how to show it in any other way. I've created a can we afford it meter, right? So we can look at it and you can suggest some names. I can't do it now, but I've run the figures. It is scary. It is scary. We do need a centre back. We clearly do. We need a left back, a right back potentially, 3 midfielders. Like, how do we do it? Even if we sell a Rashford, Rashford can go, Højlund can go. This talk of us being able to spend all of this money, even if we had the headroom to do it, we don't have the money. So I'm going to do a show and we're going to do a transfer show, but we're going to do a real one. We're not going to do some bullshitty, we're going to sign X, Y, and Z player. We can look at it live and we can do that stuff again. Dino says it's a sell to buy summer. I hope you lose today. We LFC need the Champions League. Look, store, mate, I appreciate the banter, my friend. Absolutely no issue. Can we afford a Mentry? I like Bruno G for a couple of years. James says, hello, JB. United 3-1 against Bournemouth. Do you think we need to break the bank this summer? Yes, we do. Yes, we do, but we can't break the bank. We would have to go into the bank and beg and plead. Would you keep Casemiro for another year? I think we probably should do. I don't see how we afford. The problem with Casemiro is there's an uplift. And what people are forgetting this summer when we're talking about the transfers, it's not transfers. People should be thinking about the amortization. It is the amortization of the fees and of the wages that are going to kill us this season. But Fernandes leaving it is up in the air. Look, Bruno Fernandes, if Bruno Fernandes stays, look, Bruno Fernandes is going to command 400 to 450. How have we left the squad to get this thin? Not just on numbers, but the quality as well. We either sell or raffle Mount off to an Italian club or Championship club. If Mount was a horse, he would be shot ages ago. I agree with you. Harry is definitely going. No, Harry is staying. Harry is staying. Adam Morton for 65. Put various can we afford it out as short. I will do. I like that. Hi, United guy, says Mitch. Are you trying to look like Van der Sar today? Yes, I'm trying to look like Van der Sar today. Try and sign Tonali to Bruno's on the pitch. A bit confusing, it is. So look, I wanted to go on to the other players that are out. A De Ligt is out. De Ligt, I'm sorry. I like him. But again, this club lies. This club absolutely lies, and they've been lying the whole way through. He was going to be back. He was on grass. He's behind, and now he's out for the season. It just lies. It's just lie and spin after lie, and nobody apologizes. I'm sick of these players. Like, he needs to go. Look, he's been out for like half a season, and this is not the first time. Apparently, he's got an injury to his back, and he's had this now for quite some time. Like, how do we get rid of these players? And I've seen other people talking about how we're going to sell a Mason Mount. We're going to sell this guy. And I also got to say this as well. And look, this really pains me to say this. Look, the start of the season, the Butcher, I said that if he got back fit, he's a player that I would sell. And I was of that opinion until he was back. He came back. I think that, he's been fantastic. Look, he's been out again. Look, I like him, but I think I was right. I came on, I apologised and said, look, I think I was wrong on him. But I'm sorry. I think I was spot on. I think I was absolutely correct. The first time round. The Butcher has to go. I can't. We can't keep this up. We can't do this. The Butcher has got 1 year left on his deal. He's another player that I think is going to run down the contract. He's something. He's a player. He's a player that can't be sold. He's going to leave on free, and I would let him. If there was any chance to get money for this player, I'm sorry, but I think it's time to go. But we're not going to sell these players. Look, all this talk of getting rid of these injured players, right? Who's going to buy them? Who's going to buy them? Who's going to buy these players? And the answer is nobody's going to buy these players. So, look, I just wanted to start off the show and just say this. I'm so sick and tired of it. I'm tired. I'm tired of this spin. I'm tired of it. And people lap it up. It is abysmal. These three players are out. And Dino says there, JB question, if we get to the Champions League, how does this squad... This squad is fucked. This squad is absolutely fucked. Unless we get at least 5 in. If you think about this, right? The reason why we're screwed next season is because Mason Mount is going to be out. He's going to be out for a long time. Again, I guarantee it. And Martinez, look, is he going to come back again? I don't know, but he's going to be out. A De Ligt, he's going to be out again. He's got an injury to his back. Luke Shaw, potentially. That's 4 players. That's 4 first team players that are out. You take out a Casemiro. Ugarte will go. A Xerxes will go. A Rashford is going to go. A Malacia is going to go. Maguire, he will stay. That's potentially 10 first team players that are either gone or out. Like, that is so significant. And with the wage bill, because trust me, I've literally got the wage bill here. It is horrific. It is horrific. And to go into what has been said there by Dino, it's fucked. Like, I don't see how this threadbare squad with these players that are doing the Champions League. The Champions League is strong. Look, the Geordies have got a better side than us, right? They got spanked 7-2, and this isn't a dig at them, by the way, but we've got a worse squad. How are we going to fare against those bigger teams? And the answer is not. I don't know what INEOS are going to do here. I do not know. Again, I will do a show where we will do the transfer show, and I will bring in. I will make some shorts, but I will do a show, and we can see it live. We can plug in the numbers again, and we can talk about these players. I'll bring into the rumors of players. Look, it is not good. Someone says, why is Baleba being dragged up again? I don't think we will get him. I think Baleba is coming. I think that deal is going to happen. I do, because I think United will get that deal done. I think that deal's already been done. I think that deal's in place. I think that he's going to be the midfielder. We're talking about a Tonali, the Bruno G stuff. Look, Bruno G is going to cost £80 million, and he's probably going to cost the best part of 200k a week. I like him. He's 29. He's going to be 29 years old. Are we going to make the same mistakes of the past? Bruno G is going to be, I don't know. He's either going to go away of a Casemiro, or we could be. I'm not saying he's going to be a Mount, but can we risk it? Can we risk paying £80 million on a player who's 29 years old? And my answer is no. If somebody was to tell me we would get 5 years out of him, yes, but you can't predict the future. Football is now, and we can't be seen to waste money again. Look, whatever money we spend on him, the Bruno G stuff, that money is dead money. Unless we get into the Champions League every single season, then look, you can counterbalance that with 100 million at least every single season. Fine. But with this squad, how likely are we to get into the Champions League? Look, I know that Sir Jim thinks that this squad is good enough, right? It's not. So Baleba, for me, I think he's coming in. I do. I think his wage. But what people have to think about, which when we talk about the transfers, and I've said this, is that we have to think about amortization. We've got to think about it. Baleba's wage, I think he's on like, what is he on, 20,000? He's a cheap option. When you figure in £60 million, plus he'll probably get paid somewhere in the region of £100,000. When you bring those two together, that's so much cheaper than a player who's going to cost you 80 million plus 200k a week. Also, he's 21. You could potentially sell this player on as well. You've got to look at this. I think he is the one. I think Gomez and him. I think those two players are going to be the ones that we get, and I will show you why I think that. Dina says 100 million to get into the Champions League. How much of that is allocated to the transfers? Probably not a lot. And yeah, we've got to think about the money that we owe as well. There is still the transfer debt that we need to pay. Simon says, all the time we kept going on about Luke Shaw being injured when he was going to go. Now just is the situation with him. In the words of Clash, should I stay or should I go? Luke Shaw. Look, I'm going to say something now. Look, I've been Luke Shaw's biggest, not his biggest fan. Look, I'm sure Luke Shaw as a person is a wonderful person. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, right? If Luke Shaw can stay fit, we've got to keep Luke Shaw. We've got to keep Luke Shaw. You know, if this club is not going to buy another left back, do I think that that's right? No, I think that that would be a failure. I never thought Luke Shaw would be here for like the whole of this season. He defies medical science, right? Luke Shaw defies medical science. We need numbers. Luke Shaw is not good enough to be here, but we need players who are available. We go into the Champions League with a Luke Shaw next season. We're going to get obliterated. Can you imagine Yamal, Rafinha against a Luke Shaw? Can you imagine those players against a Maguire? And look, congratulations to Maguire and Mainoo today, because they've got back into the England squad. I don't quite know why Mainoo is in the England squad, by the way. But look, congratulations to him. Look, he's been playing. I don't see it. I'm not English. So, you know, I'd like to know again. What do you guys think of it? Do you think Kobe Mainoo should be in the England squad? I don't know if Bellingham is injured. I don't know if somebody is out. But Kobe Mainoo, I mean, I don't know. Maguire, I can see why. But look, it is a good thing that our players are getting back into squads. But Luke Shaw, look, Luke Shaw, I don't know. It did take us a while to get rid of the bomb squad. The Cake Cadet says, look, we need a lot of players. We might have recovered well under Carrick to paper over the squad, but for the course of the full season in Europe, we will struggle 100%. I agree with you. We do need a lot of players. Look, we can't get rid of a Xerxes and an Ugarte. If we don't bring these players in, look, they will go out on loan. But unless we bring in players to replace these players, I don't see it. I don't see it. INEOS out. I agree with you. Sorry, I mean paper over the cracks. I know exactly what you meant. And look, you're right. We have one game a week. And we struggle. Tonight, we cannot struggle tonight, because we are playing a Bournemouth side. I don't care if they've not played either. They haven't scored in their last two games. They haven't. They've scored, I think, in the last 4 games, I think they've scored something like 2 goals. There is no excuse tonight. There is zero excuse tonight. Simon says, I hope and pray nobody else gets injured before May, with the World Cup coming up too. I'd be happy with Tonali and a Gomez. World Cup players can go straight for stupid money. We shouldn't be spending stupidly. Henderson, we can't. The facts of the matter are we can't spend stupidly. We can't do it. We can't do it because we can't do it, mate. We can't do it. Jamie says we need the right age and proven quality players. I agree with you. We need a Champions League squad. This is not a Champions League squad by any stretch. This isn't. Bruno G is worth 80 million for me. His experience, and he's good for another 4 years. 20 million a year isn't that bad. And look, I agree with that. But if we sign him for 80 million, he's got to. He's got to be fit and available for 4 years. I think Bruno G has been injured a couple of times this year. 29 years old. Say we have him until he's 31, 32. 3 good years, and then midfielders, like, depending on how fit they are. Look, if somebody could say to me, you get this player for 4 to 5 years, I would be happy with that. But I worry the only thing that would stop me, would make me concerned about that deal, is it's going to be an expensive deal to do, and he's got to play. He's got to play. We blew the chance last season to get rid of Bruno for 100 million, and now we have a problem whether he stays or go. I do agree. Ijo says, hello, my friend. Hey, JB says, Herbie, hope he's well. Yes, Shaw is back up, is fine, but it's not a starter. These Amas as to cover to Luke Shaw. Look, if we're going into the Champions League, Luke Shaw and an Amas, is that good enough? We're going to be playing the likes of Madrid, we're going to be playing the likes of Barcelona, a Bayern Munich, some of the teams who are unknown to us, who are going to be quick, who are going to be good. We already struggle in the left back, the right back positions. We will struggle even more next season. So I don't mind if that is the plan next season, for Luke Shaw and an Amas to be the left back pairings for next season. Jibble says, hey dude, hope all is well. Yes, my friend, I'm doing extremely well. Somehow forgot about the Villa game and missed it, but can't wait for tonight's game. Happy for Mainoo being caught. And yeah, look, a massive shout out to Mainoo. Whether I think he's been playing well or not, I think he's been playing okay. Look, brilliant. I'm so pleased for our players. The fact that we're winning games. Look, Kobe Mainoo is a young guy. I really want him to do well. And look, the fact he's back in the England squad, Maguire as well. Look, brilliant. I'm so pleased for them. Absolutely fantastic. And for Kobe Mainoo as well. Look, I want to see him at the World Cup. And let's see it. Canada Dave is in the house. Legend says, guaranteed Shaw pulls a hammy in the next 2 games. Yeah, Luke Shaw is not getting into the England team. No. There's nothing else to play for. I wonder if he pulls a hammy. I wonder if Luke Shaw now is probably done for the season. I hope not. I think Luke Shaw, as much as I don't think he's good enough anymore, he's played all season, and I've got to congratulate that. I've got to so far give him his props, because he's been available, and that's probably been for me the story of the season. Is these players, I've got to give these players who have been available the whole season, I've got to applaud them, because if it wasn't for those people being available the whole season, we'd be screwed. So I think we've got to give them a little bit of respect. Bluey Games is in the house, says our next game after this is 23 days from now. I know, what are we going to do for 23 days? Herbie says Mainoo will hopefully start improving and fulfill the promise he showed a couple of seasons ago. He has stagnated. Mason Mount over Mainoo today. I think Mount can be better than Mainoo. Kobe is out of form. I don't see how Mason Mount plays today. Mason Mount will not start. Mason Mount, look, I'll be flabbergasted if Mason Mount starts today. I don't think Mason Mount starts today. Mason Mount's not fit. If I think Mason Mount comes on with 15 minutes to go, Mason Mount is not starting today. No chance. Cold Logic is in the house. There's a strong argument for United needing to sign 9 or 10 players with the additional games next year. All the players leaving, replacing those leaving isn't enough. Mate, summed it up fantastically well, buddy. Fantastically well. We do need 9 or 10 players. We do need those players. I just hope INEOS have a plan, because I've run the numbers. And again, as I say, I'm going to do a show where we're going to do a Can We Afford It show. And you guys can come in with these players. I will tell you who's going to go. And we can look at that again. Jibble says, I'm happy with the 2 CMs of different and the right back upgrade this summer. If we can sell Ugarte and a Rashford, go for 3rd CM, that's ideal for me. For me, Bruno at least top 11 in the Ballon d'Or ranking. I don't see how Bruno Fernandes gets the Ballon d'Or, but look, I respect the opinion. I know there are many, many Bruno Fernandes fans out there. I don't see how Bruno Fernandes gets into the Ballon d'Or at all. Look, I think if you're talking about the Ballon d'Or players, right, how can anybody who's played 1 game a week, who hasn't been that good, by the way, look, for his goals, for his assists, fantastic. I don't see, and again, I'm not saying your opinion is wrong. I'm just going to give my opinion, because I think that's an interesting point to make. I don't see how Bruno Fernandes gets into the top 11 players. You've got to factor in Madrid players, Barcelona players, Bayern Munich players, Arsenal players. I don't see how Bruno Fernandes gets into the top 11. There is no doubt for me that Bruno Fernandes is going to get into the Premier League team of the season, just based on the assist. I don't think he's played particularly well, but look, Bruno Fernandes, look, his goals and assists make points. Bruno has got those points, and I can see that. I can see why Bruno Fernandes, from a goals and assist, is elite, but anything else he's not. So look, I don't agree with that, my friend. I don't see how Bruno Fernandes gets into the top 11 in the Ballon d'Or. Look, not when you've got, come on now, not when you've got Yamal, Rafinha, Mbappe. You don't know who else is going to have a good World Cup, Champions League. You've got Arsenal players in there. Yeah. Simon says, Larmans, Dallo, Maguire, Yoro, Shaw, mainly Casemiro and Bumo, Bruno, Cunha and Shesko. I think Shesko's going to play tonight. I do. I think Shesko is going to play tonight. I hope he does. I think this is the perfect game for Shesko tonight. I do. I think this is a perfect game for him. I think he's going to bully these. I think he's perfect for him tonight. User says, hi, should Ahmad be dropped for Shesko? Yes. Yes, I do. I think Ahmad's going to be another one of those players, I think, up for debate. But I would drop Ahmad tonight. I would. You've got to start to drop these players who are not playing well. There has to be competition for places. So I like Ahmad. I really, really like him. But I would drop him tonight. I would. Might just be the confidence boost for Man United. And goes up a gear tonight. And Herbie, you're right. You are right. Code Logic says, thoughts on Henderson making the squad? Should we get Gerrard and Scholesy out of retirement too? Jordan Henderson, look, I think Jordan Henderson is in there for the experience. I think Jordan Henderson is in there. Tuchel seems to like him for that experience. Is he having a decent season? Look, I feel sorry for English fans. Look, I'm Welsh, so look, but Jordan Henderson getting into that England squad. I'm also going to say this: big big congratulations to him as well. But the fact that Maguire at 34 years old, Henderson at 84 years old, how are these players still getting into an England squad? Does that show the lack of depth? You know, people keep talking about England's strengths, and you know, you've got a Cole Palmer, a Bellingham. You know, you've got these players, Lewis Hall. You know, you've got all these players in that squad. Henderson in there. I mean, come on. Jubal says, 23 days, glad my local side. Kettering has a lot of games in this month as loads of home games were postponed. In Mount should watch the match at home. I think Mason Mount should come on this channel. Give him something to do. I will tell you this, right? I'll tell you a story. So I was wearing my red United shirt, the 92-93 season shirt, right? I went to the Waitrose around the corner. So I was just in there. I picked up my children from school. We were walking around wearing this, and who should I see walking towards me? Paul Parker. So Paul Parker was in there, and he was giving me this look because he I was in his shirt, so I was in a shirt that he wore. Now look, the only reason I didn't, you know, ask him or speak to him was because I had the kids. I had a handful of stuff, but yeah, walking around now, I'm gonna have to find Paul Parker. Walking around in the red shirt, and Paul Parker was there, absolutely ridiculous. And like, you know, we locked eyes. I gave him a little smile. He must have thought I was a bit weird. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. Not English, but how are you not English, but how are you guys happy with Henderson being called up absolutely crap? Henderson getting in and Welbeck not. I think Welbeck, you're right, Cold Logic. Welbeck should be getting into this England squad. I'm not saying Bruno deserves it, but he deserves a good ranking. At least it was pre-2008 Ballon d'Or voting. He'd def be in the top 20. But these days, the media clown on United, so no chance he gets top 10. Bruno Fernandes is going to get into the player, the team, the team of the season, right? I think there's an argument against it, but I think there's an argument for it. If this United squad goes from 15th last season to 3rd, look, these players good enough or not, some of them have to get into the team of the season. Shesko will score late. Don't worry, Ramadan is over. Now Ahmad will definitely go back to playing good. I think he should be. I think he should be dropped tonight. I do, not as punishment. I think he should be dropped tonight. I think that is a consideration. I do think that is a consideration, but I think he should be dropped tonight. Please keep Ugarte and Malacia on the bench when the game is played. If you want to win, just give them a bucket and a spade. Arnold not in the England squad. Don't ask Mason Mount to do anything. He'll probably get injured. Definitely leaving Rashford, Sancho, Casemiro. Probably even Onana, Bienda, Malacia, Ugarte, Xerxes. Recurring De Ligt, Shaw, Martinez, Mount. That's 12. Agreed. Like when you put it in those contexts and in those terms, agree with you. Several years ago, I saw Paul Scholes at a racecourse in Market Resson when he was trying to be incognito and trying to recover from an injury, and the local press got wind of it. Chuck Norris is dead. Yeah, I just saw that. I just saw that. I can't believe he's gone. Absolute legend. So Chuck Norris has died. Look, let's just take a second. What a legend. What an absolute legend of a guy, and ridiculous. Absolute legend. I remember Welbeck always did pretty well when he played for England. It seemed to get a goal quite often despite not starting. Score predictions for today. The Delta Force. Yeah, it is. It is. It is great film. I think United come and get a happy Eid. Yes, happy Eid to everybody who's celebrating Eid. Look, I know it's a I know it's a difficult thing to do. Look, I'm not sure if I've got the commitment to do that. I know, it is a difficult thing to do. So look, happy Eid. And look, I hope you guys go and feast. I hope you guys go and eat everything under the sun and have a good day. Chuck will be back tomorrow after kicking the Grim Reaper's ass. That's so true. I love it. What do I think the score is going to be? Bournemouth haven't scored in the last 2 games. I think that we should be beating them tonight. I think tonight should be a comfortable game, and that's not because I'm trying to insult them. I think Bournemouth have dropped off this season. I think that I don't know why they've dropped off though, but I think that they have. I think that United should win tonight, and again, I'm expecting a win tonight. Again, I'm just expecting a win tonight. We need to win this game. Look, we've got Chelsea coming up. We've got Liverpool again. We need these wins. We cannot afford to slip up. We cannot afford to slip up tonight. Even if Liverpool, even if we were to draw or lose, Chelsea we have to beat. And then I think that the rest of the season, I think that we can get over the line. I think if we win tonight, I think we take a big step tonight. So look, I am demanding a win tonight again. I'm not predicting it based on, but we will go through it in a second, and we'll go through the game. Feast is well underway. Look, mate, I hope you eat everything under the sun and really enjoy it because you've earned it. Never underestimate Bournemouth. They are like a wounded animal and they will come back. When God said, "Let there be light," Chuck Norris said, "Say please." I love it. Bournemouth is a bit of a bogey team for us. So look, let's go through the game. Let's go through the game as we always do. Let's go through the game. Chasm says, hello, my friend. Hope you're doing extremely well. So look, how are Bournemouth going to play? Bournemouth at the start of the season were fantastic. Aro's good. Where am I from? I'm from Essex. I'm from the UK. Heaven completed it, mate. Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris. Brilliant. So how are Bournemouth going to play? Look, they play a 4-2-3-1, a 4-3-3, or 3-2-5 in possession. Under Arola, they do typically play a 4-2-3-1, but it does morph into a 4-3-3, and sometimes it morphs into a 3-2-5. They play with one of the fullbacks pushing up high. They tuck in, and the midfield between the centre backs, and they've got 2 number 8s. Are you watch along tonight? Yes, I am doing a watch along tonight. Yes, I am. I'm doing a watch along tonight. So please join me for that. We will be going through the game, and look what I would do a watch along for that tonight. Bournemouth's style of play is their high energy hybrid press. Now look, Semenyo has gone. I think that's been a big hit to them. Semenyo has gone. So I think Semenyo liked playing against us. Fantastic player. But Semenyo has gone. What they like to do is they like to set traps. We are a counter side. They are not going to have a low block tonight. Now, the reason why I think that we will have joy tonight is they do like to press. Now, the worry for me tonight, and I am going to start with a Bruno Fernandes, is he does lose the ball a lot. Now, look, Bruno Fernandes, I think, will have space tonight. So I think when you look at the two, I think Bruno Fernandes, I think when we're talking about, because he's going to have to be in that defensive phase, because Bournemouth will look to win the ball, and they are extremely fit. They're going to be at home. Their tails are going to be up. I think that is, again, I think it's going to be a very, very end-to-end game. I think the midfield, they will dominate the midfield, and it is going to be up to, in Bumo again, I think Cunha will play. Bruno Fernandes, I think it's going to be up to those three to press. Kobe Mainu as well. Casemiro, I think, again, is going to sit in front of that back four, and we're going to counter. Carrick, I like him, but he is going to play. He is going to play counter-attack. I don't think he knows another way to play. A young manager, I think Carrick's biggest strength is he knows how to get into these players. But these players have to start fast. Someone says we would be like a team of vampires and go for the jugular. I predict a late Shesko goal again. It does if he doesn't get subbed. So look, we've got to start fast. Carrick keeps saying this, and the funny thing for me here is that Carrick has said this team hasn't played well. And it's so funny when it comes out from the coach. We say it on here all of the time. People come on here saying, we played well today. We've been playing well. Carrick himself has been saying that we haven't been playing well. And we haven't. We started off slow. We cannot start slow tonight. We have to go for it tonight. Look, we haven't got a game for whatever it is, 20 odd days, right? There is no excuse for these players tonight. They have to come out and give everything tonight, because we don't have a game for the best part of 3 weeks. We can't be flat tonight, and Henderson is right. We can't be flat. I don't understand why we are flat. It is ridiculous. So we've got to come out tonight, and we've got to start fast. Cologic says Mainly's ball retention and Larman's catching the ball counters Bruno's wasteful in possessions. I agree. Mainly's ball retention, that's the one thing about his game, is when he's got the ball at his feet, he's brilliant. That's his biggest strength, I think, is when he's in the attacking phase. I think his ball retention is brilliant. When the ball is at his feet, he is absolute fantastic. Simon says, my score prediction is 2-1 tonight. We are lethargic in the first half and play better in the second half. Now, Bournemouth like to play vertical attacks. They don't overly play in the dangerous, but they are happy. They're happy to go long. So we're having a watch along tonight, Dino. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We're going to do a watch along tonight. Yes, we are. I've already set it up. We are going to do that tonight. We're going to do a watch along tonight. I'm going to try and do it for about 7:30, and we will get on to the watch along tonight. Look, they like to play from deep. They like runners from deep. The number 8s like to play in pockets. And they like to try to close teams down, and they like to try to smother teams. Their fullbacks, as we know, are very aggressive. One of the things that does concern me, as always, are our left and right backs. Luke Shaw struggles against pace. He struggles against any sort of attacking down that side. A Dallo, you know what you're going to get from him tonight. And again, I think they'll target those sides. I think those runners from deep are going to target those sides. And I'm hoping tonight that they're going to have a bad game. And I should tell you for why. So look, Simon says, okay guys, I'm off, have things to do, have a good afternoon. Come on United, time to go cherry picking tonight. Yes, I think all the late winners show our superior condition, having only played one game a week. So look, these are Bournemouth's last results, right? So look, Burnley away, they didn't score. Brentford at home, they didn't score. Sunderland away, they scored 1. West Ham away, they didn't score. Everton away, they scored 2. So in the last 5 games, they scored 3 goals. So for me, Bournemouth shouldn't really be scoring tonight. They are at home. They are a bogey team. Their form is win and 4 draws. This is a game that we should be winning tonight. Look, they are a tough team to break down. The one thing that I will say is that they are a tough team to break down. That's a fact. That's a fact. We struggle. We do struggle to break teams like that down. Now, as much as they've scored 3, they've only conceded 2. So they've only conceded 2 goals in the last 5 games, which tells you what you're going to get tonight. You're going to get a very, not necessarily defensive, low block side, but what you are going to get tonight is they're a very aggressive, winning the ball back side, and we've got to counter that, which we will. But we've got to counter that tonight. We've got to take the game to them. Look, we need to beat the first press. We need to win first balls. We do need to beat that first wave of press. We need to protect the ball in the width. We need to control the transitions. Now, the problem for me here is that I don't think we control the midfield. Look, for me, games are won and lost on the midfield. And again, I'm not calling him out, but Bruno Fernandes in that midfield central position, I worry about that transition. I worry about that control. That's the one thing we never do, is we don't control those midfield. We also need to basically win second balls. That we've got to be on it today. Bournemouth, as much as they don't score, they are a very, very organised game. Bruno will win us the game again. It wouldn't surprise me. Spicy says, Bruno, 2 assists. We will win 3-1 or 3-0. What's your score prediction for tonight? I think we'll win. I do think we'll win. I think we'll win a 2-0. A 1-0, I think, is going to be a very, very, very close game. We've got to start fast. As I've said, Bournemouth have only conceded 2 goals in the last 5 games. They've only scored 3. So I'm not necessarily concerned that they're going to score goals, but they are a bogey team. We've got to start fast. Now, look, Spicy, it wouldn't surprise me. Bruno takes the corners, the free kicks. Bruno is the guy that makes the play. And there is no argument from me here that Bruno Fernandes, from a creation perspective, he's our best player. You could argue he's probably the best Premier League player at creating chances. When it comes to assists, half of his assists, look, if you go and you look at those assists, half of those assists are from corners. I'll give you an example. I'll give you what happened to Kluivert. I think he got injured. And then just some players just never the same. And maybe Kluivert has maybe just not having the best of seasons. You're right. He was a fantastic player. I don't know what is. Maybe he's been injured. He's double the guy second. He's double the guy second to winning the assist of the season. And again, look, I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing that Bruno Fernandes, when it comes to creation of goals, he is elite. He is. Look, there is no question. He is a fantastic forward player who creates goals. There is no question. There is no question of that. But he's also abysmal when it comes to retaining the ball. Bruno Fernandes is elite at some things, but he's not great at being a captain. He's our worst captain. He's not a captain. He cannot lead this side. In terms of losing the ball and retention of that ball, he's one of the worst in the league. And go and look at the stats. Go and look at that stuff, right? He is abysmal. He's one of the worst in the league for giving the ball away. Now, the reason why I mentioned that, the reason why I mentioned that is because when we're trying to control games, look, Bruno Fernandes does lead us to concede goals, right? But he also creates goals. So the creation of goals is almost negated because of what he does in that midfield. But look, there is no argument. There are two sides to Bruno Fernandes. He is elite at creating chances. Yes, he is a very, very risky player, right? Very, very risky player. It depends on whether you want that risk or not. Look, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example, right? I'll give you an example. Is this next season when we're in the Champions League and Bruno Fernandes takes those risks against a Barcelona with this side and he continually loses that ball? Telling you now, he's going to be a curse. He's going to be a joy, but he's going to be a curse. Next season, when other teams strengthen their midfield, and if Bruno Fernandes is still in that position, I'm concerned. Look, we need to get a team where we control the midfield. And look, hopefully, if we get two midfielders, I'm not too concerned. Let Bruno Fernandes, he can do his thing, right? Let him be the quarterback. Let him be the guy that gets the assists. And if people are obsessed with that, which they are obsessed with that, fantastic. But in this side, it's very, very, very risky. But Bruno Fernandes, when it comes to assists, is elite. And you're not going to hear me say he's not elite, because he is. He's double the guy, second to him. Yet 5 more assists, JB, and he's top assister in the season. And look, I hope he gets it. I hope. Look, our players who do this stuff, I applaud it. If Bruno Fernandes gets the most assists in the season, then he deserves all of the praise. He deserves praise. He deserves to be called the player of the season in people's minds. If people want to call him a world-class player, I don't believe he is. But if people call him a world-class player, I get it. Long live Barca. The reason he gets so many assists is because he's risky. I might also be the CR7 effect. He demands to take all the shots so everyone's numbers tank while he tops up scoring charts. I don't disagree with that. He's supposed to be a number 10, not going to do a Casemiro or Kobe work because he's a captain. Why do you think he's a bad captain? The players love him as captain. I respect your opinion. Yeah, again, mate, I respect your view as well. Because he's petulant, mate. He doesn't lead this team. Look, I get it. The players love a Bruno, right? But he's not a captain, mate. He doesn't lead this team. He doesn't. If you look at a captain, like a captain isn't somebody that just gets assists. There are players out there that people love. I'll give you an example. A Kante. People loved a Kante, right? People loved a Makalele, right? Were they the captains of their team? No. Bruno Fernandes isn't a captain. He's not assertive enough. he doesn't lead this team. He leads this. Look, just because he moans and chucks his hands up in the air doesn't mean that he's a captain. Look, if people think he is, that's great. Maybe I'm blinkered. Maybe I'm from an era where I see captains as something else. Maybe the game has changed to a point, and I will concede it, that maybe the game has changed to a point where captain is something else now. But for me, a captain is more than just assists. A captain is more than somebody that players like. I don't want my players to like a captain. I want my players to have fear. Because then if the captain, he doesn't lead by example, and what I mean is that when you need somebody in a game to step up, and I'm not talking about an assist, when you need somebody in a game to literally put one on somebody, to gear up a game. The Newcastle game is prime example. There've been many games this season, but the Geordie game is the prime example. Is why couldn't he get this team up then? Why couldn't he inspire this team? I don't think he inspires this team. I think he frustrates the fuck out of this team. I think players like Acuna, I think he frustrates the fuck out of him. I do, and I also believe that this team likes him because they've got to like him. What choice do they have? Mount signing was stupid, didn't make sense. Then we did it. He's a decent player, but never available. Chelsea had a pants pulled down. When you concede possession, you have to run more. Over a season, it will knacker out players. United made Bruno, not the other way around. He owes a lot to the club and the players who hid his shortcomings. And look, I get that. I like that a lot. I don't want to go too much into him tonight. It's true, Spicy. It is true. United made him. He didn't make us. He didn't. We are United. We were here before him. We will be here when he leaves. He hasn't made us. Like, what has he made us? Like, my question here to Spicy, and look, mate, again, I'm not calling your opinion out, is what's he made us then? Because we finished 15th last season. What has Bruno Fernandes made us? Have we won a league? No. What has he made us do that's different? What has Bruno Fernandes by himself made us do? If you look at the captains who inspire teams, I'll give you two examples. Roy Keane. When we went to Juventus, semi-final, we were losing. We were playing shit, and Roy Keane decided to take the game by the scruff of the neck. And I'm not just talking about passing a ball to somebody. I'm talking about when you need somebody to grab a game by the scruff of the neck. And we're talking about Del Piero was playing, Conte was playing, Zidane was playing, and Roy Keane was the best player on that pitch. Stevie G and FA Cup final. West Ham were going to win it. Stevie G dragged his team through the mire and won them the FA Cup. Can Bruno Fernandes, is that something that Bruno Fernandes can do? And my answer to that is no, he can't. Who would you pick then, says Matt? Bruno step up. Bruno, he doesn't step up, Matt. He doesn't step up. Like, Bruno Fernandes steps up in terms of an assist. When you want an assist, Bruno Fernandes steps up. But Bruno Fernandes can't grab a game by the scruff of the neck. Bruno Fernandes can't take a whole game and inspire this team to win. The Geordie game, they were down to 10 men and we lost. How is that an inspirational game? We played the Toffees at home. Where was he then? We played a Europa Cup final against Spurs, who that was one of the worst Spurs teams I've ever seen. Where was he then? Liverpool, when we got absolutely spanked. Where was he then? And people will say this. They will say Bruno Fernandes inspires us. And then they'll say Bruno Fernandes can't do it. Like, he needs a team, right? That is hypocrisy at its biggest level, because how can Bruno Fernandes step up and be this amazing player? People will say, as you just said there, Matt, Bruno steps up, right? Bruno Fernandes is this team. But then in the next breath, when I say he's not, and why didn't he play well in the Toffees game, etc., the argument back at me is always, well, it's not something that like he can do. He needs the team. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. A better captain could also influence the refs a bit more. Order is centre midfield, a 6 and an 8, left back, wing back, and a centre back. If he inspires his team every game, that would be 40 points clear. Southern United fan. Look, Matt. Look, mate. I've been watching this team for nearly 40 years. Matt, what does me being from South have to do with Bruno Fernandes? Look, again, right, Matt, and again, my friend, you're entitled to your opinion. I will read your opinion out. But Bruno Fernandes is Portuguese. Bruno Fernandes is Portuguese, right? So if you're saying to me that he's inspiring this team, so Bruno Fernandes can inspire the team, he's Portuguese, but I can't have an opinion because I'm down south. What does me being down south have anything to do with my opinion? And Bruno Fernandes does not inspire this team. Bruno Fernandes does not inspire this team every single week, because every single week for the last 5 games we've been shit. Michael Carrick has said this himself, Matt. This isn't just me. Michael Carrick has said this team hasn't played well. The manager, go and watch the presser. Michael Carrick is agreeing with me. He says this team hasn't played well. So is Michael Carrick from down south? No, Matt, you're being very, very contradictory to what everyone else says, to even what the coach is saying. Michael Carrick has even said himself this team hasn't been playing well, Matt. Those are not just my words. Those are his words. He hasn't inspired this team. He creates the chances and he wins us the games. Is that inspiring? If you look at the first half, he was shit in the last game in the first half. Villa, he was awful. How was that inspiring a team? We've been terrible in the first half of games. How is that inspiring a team? Why are we not sprinting around? Why isn't Bruno Fernandes, if he inspired this team, what's he inspiring this team to do? This team would be sprinting around. He would be inspiring this team. Matt, you're confusing a person that wins us a game through passing. He doesn't inspire us, mate. But look, Matt, I would love to know what me being from down south has anything to do with how I view the game. Spicy says, without Bruno Fernandes, bollocks, mate. Look, Spicy, I'm not having that, mate. I'm not. He has kept you respectable this year. No, disagree. Can see us signing 5 players max, then I'd be surprised. Why the F you supporting United from down south? Look, Matt, you're on the cusp. You're on the cusp of being kicked out. I don't mind the opinions, mate. I don't mind you having a different opinion to me. No problem at all, right? But the moment you start attacking me is when you're going to go. So I don't mind the opinion. I don't mind the banter. I don't mind you calling me a glory hunter. I don't mind you talking about history. Fine. But the moment you start saying the things that you are, you know, do you think Gonat has been leaking the Chelsea team sheets? That I fucking hope so. Gid says he led us to 42 points, our lowest ever. That's his legacy, losing to Spurs in the European Cup final. Look, and Spicy, look, Spicy, you summed it up well there, mate. Look, again, I respect the opinion. Spicy, you summed it up. You've just summed up exactly what I'm saying. Spicy, you've just said that Bruno Fernandes inspires us. Bruno Fernandes is our best player. And then in the next breath, you're saying we're blaming him for the shortcomings of everybody. But you're saying that he inspires this team. You can't have it both ways, mate. You can't say he inspires us and he's a captain and he's fantastic when Gid is right. We had 42 points last season and we lost to the worst ever Spurs side in that final. You can't have it both ways. Like, I am not blaming Bruno Fernandes for this team. Bruno Fernandes has contributed probably more to this team, right? But he did lead us to 42 points. If only United fans were from... for Manchester, the stadium would be empty. Arsenal fans from London, the person is an idiot. What you only inspirational if you score, mate? Matt, I've just said that, Matt. I've literally just said that. I'm not going through this again. I'm not at all. I'm not going through that. I prefer Europa League because it gives us enough time to get used to Europe, and then we can win the Champions League. Look, I am. You can have an opinion. I allow is just poor. Look, Matt. I think your opinion is terrible, Matt. I think your take is hypocritical, Matt. You're trying to have it the both ways, my friend. I think you'll come back to Bruno Fernandes. I've already explained why I don't think he is an inspirational player, but I think your opinion on him is very, very hypocritical. He inspires this team. He's this wonderful player. He is when he can be bothered, but he doesn't inspire this team, and that is my view. Look, you can look. This isn't the Bruno Fernandes show, Matt. You can have your view. If you think he's a wonderful player and you love him and he's your amazing player, then that's fine. But I disagree with you. I think your take on him is so poor. I think your take on him is very limited. I think it's a basic opinion. I do. Went off topic. Bruno, look, you guys can go off on it, mate. Who is world footballer right now? Who is world footballer that right now would replace Bruno Fernandes? I mean, off the top of my head, who do I think is better than Fernandes? If you're talking about overall midfield players, Valverde, I think as you've asked, I think that a Valverde would replace him. I do. But look, I'm moving away from him because this is not the Bruno Fernandes show. Milton says hi. For all we know, Cunha can play Fernandes' role. He hasn't been asked to exactly. Little look. Ifran says Bruno is an exceptional player, but most time he annoys me when he makes silly mistakes. Look, I again, I'm not going to go through too much on the Bruno Fernandes debate. Again, all I'm going to say is this: there are two sides to Bruno, right? You've got the elite passing player, but you've also got, look at the stats. You've got, and Bruno Fernandes isn't a 10. Bruno Fernandes isn't a 10. He is a free role player, right? Bruno Fernandes as a passer of the ball and a creator of a chance, he is elite. I'd argue he's probably one of the best in the world at that. But there is another side to Bruno. You can't just use the assist stat to change a rhetoric. That's not true. Bruno Fernandes as a midfielder is not the complete. It just isn't. And if to be world class, you've got to be a complete midfield player, and he's not. If you look at midfielders who have been complete in the recent times, Valverde, he's nowhere near Valverde. He's nowhere near Valverde. Tonali, I would say that Tonali is starting to come up to a level where I think he's starting to become a complete midfielder. And yes, people can talk about offensive stats, right? He is an offensive passer, and he's elite, right? But there's also a defensive side. I would argue, as great as he is from an offensive perspective, there are players who are better from a defensive perspective. Then he is the best two-side player in the world. And look, guys, I am not going to disagree with your opinions on him, because look, I think when you like a player, I think it's very, very personal to you. I just don't share the opinion, and it doesn't mean your guys' opinion is wrong. It really, really doesn't. Bruno's done the best he can under the lack of leadership and tactical identity of the club over the last 6 years. He's just a symptom of a broken club. What's the score tonight? We owe Bournemouth 4 goals. Look, I think we win tonight. I do. I think we win tonight. I think we win 2-0, 2-1, 3-1. We've got to win tonight. It is as simple as this. If we win tonight, I think top 3 and top 4 is probably locked in. And the reason why I say that is just because, look, there are not many games left. Jab says, would you take a punt on Camavinga? Price is being thrown around off 50 million. Top talent. His injury record is concerning. Plus, I'm always hesitant of buying Madrid players. And Jabs, I was going to say the exact same thing, Jabs. You've just read the mind. I don't want Real Madrid players that they don't want. Camavinga for me is a hard no. It is a hard no. The reason why they're looking to sell him is because he's a busted flush. I think he's done. It's because they want us. And are we going to do the same thing that we did with a PSG? Are we going to fund their move for a Stiller? I think Real Madrid want a Tonali. I think a Bruno G. I think a Stiller. Right? I do not want to fund their summer transfer window. So Real Madrid can fuck off. Camavinga, I don't want him. I don't want that player. Any player that Madrid don't want, they can piss off. Bruno is the reason we're a counter-attacking team. You can control a game when you build around him. Look, it's true. It is true. Look, I firmly believe that you don't control a game. Camavinga is miles clear of a Steeler. Look, I'm not disputing that Camavinga is a fantastic player. I can't take a risk on an injured player. His injury, look, we can't do it. I can't do it. Look, this club should stay away from him. I am not disputing that Camavinga is a wonderful player, but the injury record for me, I can't do it. I can't do it. Tonali is the guy. I do agree with that. I would much prefer Tonali. They will buy Bruno G with that money. I'm 100% with you on that. I just think at only 23, there's a quality player. I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. I like Camavinga. I like him. But we can't take chances. This is the one thing. Every player is a chance because you don't know. But when you know a player is injured and you're taking a chance before you take a chance, I can't do it. I can't get on board with it. I can't do. So look, for me, as much as I think he's a great player, I personally can do it. It is because we have no identity and structure. Poor plays around him. Imagine had he been in more structured team. I don't disagree with that. If you put Bruno Fernandes in a City, if you put Bruno Fernandes in a Madrid, Bruno Fernandes needs to be exclusively an attacking number 10. Bruno Fernandes needs to be an attacking number 10. He does. I'm seeing some talk of Mike Gotts from Ajax, left wing option. Not a clue if he's this. I've not heard that yet. I will do some investigation, but I have not heard that. I've not heard that. Look, we've got to get a mixture. I think we've got to get in the next window. We need to get creative. We need to start thinking outside the box because, again, I am going to do a show whereby it's going to be called "Can We Afford It?" Mikio from Ajax will be a top CDM. Look, I've got PTSD from the Dutch players, so I don't know. So look, I've just noticed the Nintendo 64 in the background. Look, Nintendo 64 legend. I love that console, absolutely fantastic. But look, it is absolute legend. So look, guys, I'm going to go. I will be back this evening. There will be a watch along tonight, so hopefully you can watch along the game with me tonight. And hopefully Bruno Fernandes, I want another 3 assists from him tonight. I want him to be an amazing performance. Selwyn is in the house. Greetings from Cape Town. Selwyn is a legend. Great console. United and my Juventus once upon a time were great teams and now are fallen. Yes, I agree. Do you think United will beat Bournemouth tonight? Andrew, I think we will. I do. I think we will. Jeff says, I'm going to watch the game surrounded by Liverpool fans, so the win would be even sweeter. Look, I hope they win for you, my friend. I hope we win. What's your prediction? I think a 3-1. I do. I think a 3-1? I think it's going to be close. I'm going to go 2-1. I'm going to go 2-0 or 2-1 because Bournemouth don't concede goals. I don't think they're going to concede 3. I think they might concede 2. But look, I hope they concede 4 tonight. Jeff says, I'm going to say it now, Cunha will score. I bloody hope so. So look, guys, I'm going to go. I'll always say this. Thank you for being on the channel. Whether we agree or not, I'd love the opinions on this show. Look, you guys have some cracking opinions. I do love the debate that we have on here. It's just fantastic. And look, you guys make the show. Without you guys, it doesn't happen. And look, I really, really do enjoy the banter. I enjoy the different opinions and views. And look, you guys make the channel. You make the show. A legend. So look, I will be back this evening. I should be back about 7:30. So hopefully you can join me for that. And hopefully we get another win. So look, guys, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm JB. This is the United Devil channel. Absolute legend. And I'll see you tonight. Take care. And I'll see you guys very, very soon.